just all online. She wants to take control of that.
Well, then it's not an HBCU. It's kind of
No.
like
It's not, because she has hired her own people to do advising. She has hired her own people to do, to do the LMS, and she's hiring people that can actually teach. So she's trying to manipulate complete control, but under Central State University, the Senate has control, and the Senate has dictated time and time again that it is faculty that have control of the program.
and she probably doesn't have tenure or anything. Like,
No, she's not even in a position to have tenure.
that's what I was wondering. So it's possible. Yeah, it's important to have open communication up front. Make sure if you are doing OERs that it's approved the proper way, and if you're going
But
to
the
do
thing
it, it
is,
might
she
take.
can't just go out and do one, and she can't tell her faculty, go ahead and do do paperwork and redo a course. It
Right.
has to take approval of the CRJ faculty and our department. But if he declines to have a meeting and a vote, it falls back on us.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more than happy to get the whole department involved,
Right.
because I think it's something that everybody needs to know.
Absolutely.
He is not doing his job.
Yeah.
And then we need to step in and say, as a department, we vote no.
Right.
We are not gonna let them come in and just take over this course and develop it themselves. No,
Right. Yeah. I'm with you.
I think probably, I can't think of anybody that wouldn't be.
I know, right? I'm like, who would?
Because, I mean, this is just like opening Pandora's box even bigger and making everybody vulnerable.
Right. Yes.
So if it doesn't get stopped now, and we let this one go through, then it's gonna be sociology, then it's gonna be psychology.
Yeah. I
Anyway, I have talked about it all day long.
That's okay. Well, that's kind of how you brainstorm stuff, and that's important because we're all, we figure out. That's how we think out loud, really. So.
But, I mean, it's very clear in AAUP.
Yeah.
The guidelines, exactly what has to.
Right.
Department faculty. It doesn't say department chair, it says department faculty.
Yes. Good. Good. Read those contracts. Don't ever.
Well, the thing is, they're.
I know. Well, we'll see you in the.
What time is it?
I'm going online, but yeah, it's at 4. I think they sent a link. I hope
They did, I think.
I just
Yeah,
gotta-
they do, because there are some people like Umesh that can't attend.
Right. Yeah, and I can find it on my old phone. I still have it thing.
You had too much, 2 computers, 2. I'll see you later.
See ya. How are you?
Great. I talked with my mom.
Did you get to get a hold of her?
What?
It was good to talk and get a hold of her.
Yes, she said hi to you also.
Oh, good. That's nice. You can tell her she can watch our classes.
Oh yeah, I can tell her, but yes, it is just right before she's going to sleep.
That's good. It's so I had a few things I wanted to go over today, but in all honesty, I was just going to give you more chance to do your presentation.
Yes, hear about mental illnesses and other difficulties, yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I forget which one you chose, but I feel like you were liking trauma. Addictions.
Yes, but
Alcoholism and addictions, or anyone is fine.
I wanted to take the most obvious addiction, that is alcoholism and nicotine addiction, but search in a more scientific way, other than all this advertisement. Smoking is bad, and you're like, really?
Yes.
Wow, surprising.
Yes.
I wanted to understand it a little bit deeper. And
Yeah.
The deadline for this presentation is also next week, or a little bit further?
Ideally, we get somebody going next week, and most people will go the very last day possible that they can.
Yeah, so it's better to be a little bit early.
Ideally, somebody has to go first, so that's what it is. Most people are waiting for somebody else to go first, so I say, I'll give higher points for if you want to go first. I'll give you more points. Because then
A
it
little
just...
star on the test.
Right, yeah, you get a check plus instead of a check. And so that's usually how I do it. And
by the format, you should do a presentation PowerPoint.
that's the ideal if you can. That helps the most.
Because usually I do the presentation without any words and without images most of all, and some statistics. I also do a Word file with what I want to say.
Okay.
So will it be okay to do these 2 files?
Yeah. Yeah. And some people even add a video into it. So if you have like a good video on alcoholism that you find in English, you can
Yes.
extend. I mean, you could do it in Russian, but maybe you use subtitles on the bottom. So
No, I can translate it.
yeah, that's true.
I have a master in translating now because I recently had a boyfriend that I'm showing a lot of Russian stuff and I'm just constantly translating.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. That's good. Well, we're finishing up like parenting and like how you should do things, but you may remember this slide from last time. Maybe I got to this slide right after you left. I can't remember. But the key for kids is engagement. So playing with your children, encouraging your children to play, being consistent in your approach, using established routines for your children, setting up clear limits. Like you can't keep changing the rules on them. That will be confusing. So if you have more than one child, doing the same rules for everybody, so you don't have different rules for each person, that's confusing. That makes them feel safe. Talking, so being attentive, responding to their needs, spending time listening to them, and then reading to them and counting to them. So doing math and reading.
Education.
Yeah.
And
And-
from what age is education should start? Like from 2, 3 years old?
Yeah, but remember how much brain development happens at 1. So we already are talking to our daughter about everything and all the time about just like even showing Sesame Street that talks about numbers and letters and how to open things up, how to close them, how to clean up, how to eat properly, how to drink enough water, just all those things that are important. So as soon as you can, is they're going to mimic whatever you do. If they see you smoking all the time, they might want to smoke.
Yeah.
So it's an option. Obviously, many people smoke for many years and tell their kids not to, and that works. But if you can mimic perfect behavior, that is ideal. So there is all these different play. You've got play is good learning, good learning environment, sex-typed behavior or toys. Also, mother.
Sex type toys is like pink for girls.
Yes. I know, isn't that interesting?
But I'm not sure it is good.
Right. I know there's obviously differing opinions on that, but that's kind of what the book had, and I know the book is now 10 years old, so it could have changed, especially in like America. We have lots of things changed since 2012. Father-mother play versus peer play, like that's going to be different because just seeing like peer play is like your friends. So peers are like your friends and cousins and kids your age. Then there's a lot of research since the 30s on play behavior. So kids starting with an occupied play and solitary play, like they learn how to self-soothe. We also have onlooker play where like they watch like the kid next to them and they learn how to like play with bricks or do different things. Then at like 5 years, you've got associative play and cooperative play where you're like building forts together and like creating things, maybe even doing soccer games and stuff, like soccer, football, and what else do you have? Baseball and any sports. So those are a few. Now they jump right into neglect. So if you do neglect your children, nowadays it's easy because we have so many distractions. So you've got your phone, you've got texting, you've got the internet, you've got TV. And it's really important to like engage, like sit down and do things with the kids. And it's hard to, is then you got to like write back to people and your job's online. So you balance those two. But neglect is maltreatment of children. There's physical abuse, sexual abuse, physical neglect, educational neglect, and psychological abuse. And that might be, screaming and yelling and any psychological terrorism. So in America, we had 12 out of 1,000 kids who were victims of maltreatment. So this was 20 years ago. We had 1 million. And that could be any of these. So physical abuse, sexual abuse, educational neglect, physical neglect, or psychological abuse. It was 52% of boys and 48% of girls were victims of child maltreatment. So it's almost half before you get to the age of 10, 12, 14. The youngest children, so if you're less than 3 years old, they have the highest rate of abuse. And that's usually because, especially if they're a new parent and the baby's crying all the time and they try to get them to stop and they shake them and that can like kill, and we have, I know it may sound funny or crazy, but they have billboards that say never, never shake a baby because their brain, they are like, there's many that die when like the baby's crying so much, it'll go like this and then the brain injury will kill a baby. So that's again because new parents don't know how to take a break or calm themselves or let them cry. Like sometimes you let them cry. Then 2/3 of perpetrators were the parents. So most of the time it is the parents because they're busy, they don't know how to parent, they're stressed out themselves, they might be on drugs, they might have their own issues going on. So that's why we have big agencies here in America. You might not have them in Russia, but they're called we call the number 241 kids. And they come and show up and investigate and make sure the kid's safe.
We have a government, like social workers in Russia basically do such stuff.
Right, correct. So that's one of them. Oh, how long do we have till I die? Probably perfect time is I also have to go at 3, but that's why it's good. We are a hybrid class. Get the other half online. Social dimension. Here's the abuse and neglect breakdown. So only 7% are psychological, 10% is sexual abuse, 20% or 19.3 is physical abuse, but most of them is neglect. So the majority of the time it's just neglectful parents. They get busy, they get overwhelmed, they don't feed their kids, and that's considered neglect. They don't engage with their kids. So here's what child abuse neglect is. Parents of caregiver factors. There is the importance of personality and psychological well-being. If the parent has a history of child abuse or neglect themselves, that's all they know how to do. Like if all they know how to do is yell at their kids to get them to shut up, that's all they're going to do.
They have this program in their head.
Right. Yes. So obviously, we mentioned substance abuse before. If you're on drugs, you don't know how your behavior will be, but you could do anything. You could hit them and not even remember if you're blacked out. And then age. If the 16-year-old mom, yeah, instead of a 26-year-old mom, that's a big difference.
Maybe I should do a project about it because nowadays we have a very popular program that is like pregnancy at 16, and the main thing is like, yeah, have a baby. Don't think about abortion. Having babies is okay. And it is like this propaganda to encourage like the child birth, like government need children, and it sounds just.
Oh, they need more population.
Yes.
I see. I was like, why don't they just give them condoms? It's because they want more like
Yes.
population in Africa is growing fast. India, China, so fast that they've cut it off. But yeah, you're right. That's 16 used to be the average age to have a kid, like 18 when you were 1945. You know, you get married and pregnant at the age of 17 and you have a kid at 18.
As a 20 years old person.
Right, yeah. Well, and we waited till we were 35 and 42, my wife and I. We were very old parents.
You don't regret it?
No, we have 2 kids like that. We've both replaced ourselves, a boy and a girl. So that's all I ever planned on doing.
Yes,
And I'll probably be old enough to see them into adulthood, but then they'll have to take care of themselves. Maybe I'll live longer. 61, 62, 63.
Not too ambitious.
Right. The average age of a man is 70. Actually, we'll get into that into the next chapter. It's probably more like 75. For women, it's about 80. In America, I don't know where it is everywhere else. So some things you also look at is family factors, family structure. if there is marital conflict or domestic violence and other stress, like that is more likely the kid will be exposed to stress, abuse, neglect, or anything. Um, so as a social worker, we want to keep an eye on the parent-child interaction, like watching if we're investigating, making sure that the kids seem safe, and they talk about being safe when the mom's not around. A lot of times you investigate. If the parent's there, you can't get a truthful response all the time, as they might be afraid. So this is maybe where I'm actually going to stop for today, which I know is, what do we got? 8 minutes till 3. We're right. Well, yeah, it's the end of the slideshow. So, and we'll be on chapter 6 next week. Because this is actually a 2-part class. Did you know that?
Yeah.
There's another one next semester.
Yes, I know. Unfortunately, my schedule.
It won't let you.
I can't. But I guess I can just watch some videos.
That's true if you want to. And this is a main subject in social work. So there's people way better than me that teach this subject, like very smart, very research oriented. And the second half, we get more into theories and theoretical. So it's a little bit, some people don't like theories.
It is interesting for like more complicated, like more general understanding.
Yeah.
But for practical purposes, because for me it is basically a course how to have a child and not to die.
Yeah, not to screw the kid up. How can I have some kids and not totally screw them up before they turn 18?
Yes, I will do my research anyway, but if I can do it here and get some credits for it, why not?
Yeah. But you're right, this is a hybrid course. So if they let you take up to 18 hours, you can do it and just watch the videos. If you really wanted to, you're allowed.
Maybe I'll come to your class just once a month just to watch what's going on here.
Right. Yeah. It is a hybrid course. So this will be my first time teaching the second half of it because I've only ever taught the first half.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
Because Dr. Allen always taught the second half. And in graduate school, we taught it all as one class. But in undergrad, they do 1 half and 2 halves. So I sometimes almost cover all of it in this class, but I have to remember to slow down. Like we were going too fast at first, so I've slowed down and got more into some theory and trauma and issues that come up besides just being born, living, and being alive.
Something was going wrong.
Yeah. Because there's a lot. There's several things that affect you. Well, abuse and neglect are traumas. So these are a form of trauma. For child factors, what is their age and do they have a disability? And then other environmental factors, if they're in poverty, their parents might work 80 hours a week and be stressed out. If there's unemployment, their parents could be ignoring them looking for jobs and they have no food, so they're hungry. And as a social worker, we want to connect them to resources that give them food pantry, homeless shelters. That's why we always focus on those first. Like you get your safety needs met first. Have you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
And we'll get into that more. But the base is food, water, shelter. Then the next, you can't get up to spirituality until you start with food, water, shelter, safety, security, and then you talk like spirituality stuff. So also if there's social isolation, is their way out into the country or have no transportation or car anywhere, and sometimes there's lack of social support. And then in America, you may have these in Russia too. We have some violent communities that they're just like Chicago is renowned for having 500 murders per year.
Now I understand. Usually it is like this bad part of city you don't want to get.
Right.
Every town have this part of city. And basically violent communities are based there.
Yeah. And I don't know if in Europe the past 5 years they've let in a lot of immigrants and there's been a lack of proper entry. It was almost like they gained asylum status and didn't have training. And there's a lot of clashes between Islam and Christianity. So there's violence there. I don't know if Russia has the same problem.
We have different immigrants. We have them from Middle East. And
Right.
usually they go here to work,
Okay.
and you don't really, you can't enter their societies. They live somehow separately
Right.
most of the time. But we have this class of people that are in this border of poverty.
Yeah.
And usually they live on the outskirts, and the regions where they live are the cheapest ones, but the most criminal ones. Like in St. Petersburg, I live in something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the region. I'll be moving out of there. But
Right.
it's the cheapest one. So basically, it is like one half that is poor students, and the other half criminal guys who work on the factory and drink beer every evening.
Right. Yeah. That can happen, and we have a lot of that here too. Oh, I do have chapter 6. Sometimes I have to go download the PowerPoints again. It only goes up to like 10 or 11, believe it or not. So next we get to middle childhood. There it is. So that's where we'll be, and maybe have presentations.
Growing so fast.
I know, yeah. It is kind of fun.
We're already in middle childhood, but it passed only a few months.
Yeah, it's which is what age are we talking? It is basically
After 5 years old, I guess.
right. There it is. 7 to 8-year-olds are more interested in sit-down games due to increased attention span and cognitive abilities. So yeah, 7 to 8. That's the age of reason. Age of 7 is the age of reason. So in like the church, they allow you to have your first communion.
It is like, oh, dear God, I did bad things like this.
Well, you're able to like even give a confession and learn how to learn right from wrong at like the age of 7. So you understand things more in depth. So they wait till then, and even when is confirmation? Like double that age, probably. 7th grade or 8th grade. Those are the sacraments in the church. We have baptism, first communion. Confirmation is when you're like sent off to go like serve people and like feed the poor and house the homeless and all of those things.
And do you have the tradition when the child is born, you took him to the church so he will help? I know how in Russian it is like крестить ребенка, when you just like you take him to the church, they put him in a cold water, and then he is son of God, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
No
He is baptized.
Yes.
For
such a tradition too?
yeah.
For the little children.
Yeah, I think Orthodox Russian does it sooner. They do all 3. They do baptism and first communion and confirmation all at the same time. Whereas here we do baptism first, then at the age of 7 is first communion, then at 14 is confirmation.
Okay. So basically the person can choose.
Yes. Yeah, a little bit. Some people don't do baptism till 18, so it's truly a choice.
My friend from Russia, he's a Baptist. So at 18 years old, he was like, guys, I'll be, what is it called one time?
Baptized or confirmed
Yes,
or
confirmed. You can take part and see how it will be going on. So it's
right.
more of a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of cool that way, just because it happens.
What is your religion?
I was born and I was raised Catholic, which I think there's some in Russia.
Yes, but it is not as popular.
Right. Yeah, because it's kind of more like
Orthodox Church is like, we need all